Hello everyone. Today we're going to finish this chapter, which is the glossary of usage. We stopped last time at this part, and let's explain the difference between reason and because. Most of people would use these two words in the same sentence, which is incorrect because both are with the same meaning, as you can see here. So in formal situation, don't use the construction reason because. Instead of that, what should we use? We use reason that. For example, the reason of his victory is that he knew what the voters wanted, right? So we use the reason that. So this can be in the find the mistakes, for example, in any exercise, and most of the time you can find it reason because, and you have to correct it to become reason that. So this sentence is incorrect, and you have to change it with that sentence. Okay, let's continue to talk about rise and raise, sit and set, and we've discussed this part in the last chapter, which was using verbs correctly. And just to sum up, we said that rise doesn't have to be followed by an object, but raise should be followed by an object. The same for sit and set. Sit, like to sit down, and shouldn't be followed by an object, and set here should be followed by an object. And in order to revise the past of each one, you should go back for last chapter, which was using verbs correctly. Some and somewhat. What's the problem in that? Here, some people are using some instead of the word somewhat. What's the meaning of somewhat? First, yeah, as you said, somewhat means to some level, right? Or to some extent, right? So here, for example, when you say, I have neglected the garden some, instead of saying some, you have to use somewhat. So don't switch between these two words. The correct one here is somewhat, right? Uh, let's move on to sort and kind and etc. We have the word sort and kind. Whenever they are singular, you have to get a singular, like to choose this or that or these or those singular. And when it's plural, you have to choose plural, and that we've taken before in the last pages, right? So let's move on to suppose, supposed and supposed to, right? Most of people would drop this d at the end of the word. So instead of saying supposed to, they say suppose. So this one is incorrect, this one is correct, right? So be careful of how to choose the correct one. So for example, here I'm supposed to clean my room. So don't forget that we have to put the D letter here, right? Also, we've discussed before the difference between take and bring, and we said that take means to take something, right? To go get it, but bring to come get it, right? Uh, the word teach here, we have the difference between learn and teach, and that's very easy because you teach from you learn from your teacher, and teacher teaches you. That's the difference between both, and I think that's very easy. And we have then and then, right? In the comparison or superlative, some people are trying to change these or to switch between these two words. Like what? Like this example. For example, algebra is easier than I thought it would be. You have to choose here than because you're here comparing. So whenever you are saying easier than, faster than, smaller than, bigger than, any comparative, you should use the word then, and be careful it's with the A letter. But whenever you use it with the meaning of then, like after that, use then, right? I know that most of people know that, but you need to avoid these mistakes because while writing, everything is different. So read the direction, then follow each step. So then here means after that, later, the next step, next, right? But then here it's used for comparative, smaller than, and that's the difference. Um, there and there and there. They're most probably pronounced in the same way, but they have different meaning. Like there here, you put it before a noun. It must be. It's called possessive. Like their book, their for example, when we say their laptop, whatever. So it's for possessive, right? But there here, it's the like there and here. Did you go there? Will you come here? So that's the opposite of here. So there and here, right? So it's totally different. And there here means it's a contraction for they are. So here the word, it must be they are, and that's we use it like they are going to play football. They are very helpful friends, whatever. So here the difference between the three things. Be careful. And also, if you need more information, you can go check this page, right? Okay, and then we have the word them. It shouldn't be used as an adjective. You use those. Yeah, like when you don't say I like them, say I like those jeans, right? Okay. This here and that there. Yani, what's the problem here? Let's say that whenever you use the word this, whenever you say you use the word this, don't use after it here. And whenever you use the word that, don't use after it the word there, right? Like I am buying this cassette, right? So don't say this here. Don't use them together. Use only this or that. And then we have the word this kind, sort, and type. I said it's mentioned before. It must be singular if, for example, if kind is singular, you use this. If kind, if plural like kinds, so you say these kinds, not this kind. Try and try to. The problem here is that use try to, not try. Like try to do something, try to be on time. But here you have to try to do something, right? Use to with it. Okay, used to and used to. It's the same as what we mentioned before for the word suppose and supposed to. Some people try to drop the D sound or the D letter here. Don't drop it, so do not leave off the D when you write used to. So I used to play badminton, but now I don't have time, so make sure that you write the D. Way and ways, what did we say about them before? We said that actually we talked before about anyways and anywheres and things like that, and we said that we shouldn't use the s with them, but here is a different rule. We're talking about we can use way in two different meanings, right? We can use it with the way of a road, like this road or this way, and I can use it with the meaning of distance. So I have here two meanings for the word way. So here he is telling you use way, not ways, in referring to distance. So when you refer to distance, right, don't put s to the word way. Like look at the sentence, we hiked a long way, right? Because way here doesn't mean a road, it means distance, so we cannot put s at the end. So be careful when to use the word way as the meaning of road and when to use it as the meaning of distance, right? Which one cannot be counted? The word with the meaning of distance cannot be counted, or we cannot put s at the end of the word. And the word good and well, we said that good is an adjective and well is an adverb, right? But we also said that well could be used as an adjective. We said that well could be used as an adjective when it means in good health, right? So for example, when somebody says how are you doing today, you say I'm feeling well. Here it means you feel healthy, right? You're in good condition. Okay. uh, Here he's telling you don't use what for that to introduce an adjective clause. So whenever you have an adjective clause, like what? Give example. Like this is an adjective clause, right? So he's telling you don't use what instead of that. So the correct one must be that. Like let's read this example. A part of the car that. So here don't choose what. So the part of the car that lets the wheel turn at different speeds is called the differential gear, right? So here use that, not what. When and where, as we know, when we use it for time and where we use it for place. But let's have a look at this. In formal situation, in standard English, don't use when or where to begin a definition. Here we're talking about definitions, guys. We're not talking about places or time, right? So we're talking about definitions. When you're trying to define something, do not use when and where. Like what? Look at this sentence. In botany, a sport is when a plant is abnormal. So here we're trying to define the word botany, right? Or botany. So here, whenever you are trying to define it, don't use when or where. What should we use? We use that as. Yeah, for example, football is a sport that is, and then you continue, right? So don't use where or when. The same for where, don't use where instead of that. So the correct one here must be that in all cases, like that sentence. Uh, and then we have the word which, that, and who, and these are called relative pronouns. And the relative pronouns here, like who, refers to people only. So the relative pronoun who refers to people, which refers to things only, and that refers for both. So I think that's clear from the examples here. If you might read, here is the man who will install the new carpet. So that refers to person, and the second one refers to a thing, and the third one refers to a person. So make sure that you use each one properly, right? Okay. Without and unless. Don't use the preposition without in place of the conjunction unless. So we have here two pieces of information. The first one is that without, which part of speech is without? It's preposition. And which part of speech is unless? It's a conjunction. Perfect. So don't switch between them, right? If something is used as a conjunction, so it must connect two things or two words or two sentences, right? Or two clauses. We said before that we cannot use the word of when we are talking, when we are saying would or any modal verbs generally. You know the modal verbs? Yeah, the modal verbs are, can you remember them? Yeah, must, should, what else? Can, could, may, might, would, ought to, whatever. All of these are called modal verbs. Don't use the word of with it, right? So don't say I would have or I could have. As we mentioned before, also in other pages, we can say could have plus pp or must have plus pp, right? I could have played yesterday, I could have swum yesterday, so that's correct. But you cannot never, or you can never use the word of. In the same thing here, don't use the word you're in replacement of the word you are. So here your is for possession, like your book, your laptop, whatever. And here you have to use it like you are. You are happy, you're sad. Okay, I hope you're going to the party. So that's totally different, right? And I think that's better to do these examples to have lots of exercises. Yeah, and we've mentioned before the double negatives. I think, like I told you, don't use the word hardly and scarcely with the other not. And for example, look at this sentence. Don't say I cannot hardly turn the key in the lock. So you cannot use two negatives. These are two negatives. The same here, scarcely and haven't are two negatives. So can we use two negatives in the same sentence? No. So that's what we mean by double negatives. Avoid using two negatives in the same thing, in the same sentence. So one of two of the most common negatives are hardly and scarcely, and most people get confused about them because they don't fully understand their meanings, and we have to clarify that they mean not. So don't use not twice. What are other negatives? We have no and nothing and none, right? um, so don't use them also with any negative, like don't say that answer doesn't make no sense. You have no for negative and doesn't for negative, right? You have nothing here for negative and want for negative. So avoid use these things. We wanted grapes, but there weren't none, right? So here none, and we have here word. You cannot use them together. You can change one of them so that uh, we only have one negative in the sentence, right? And I think now we finished this part. You can just do exercise 6 and 5 as a sort of uh, like uh, like testing yourself, and then we're going to discuss your answers in the next live sessions, because as you know, you must um understand or try to understand this lesson, and we'll make the live session for only discussion. Thank you so much, and see you in another episode, inshallah. Bye.